welcome back. This is Griot of the Diaspora. I am your host, Nakaira G, and today's episode is going to be a little different. We are going to focus on one topic today, and that is going to be real estate in Ghana. So I'm going to basically break down housing, real estate, living in Ghana, and I'm going to actually put some numbers into perspective. I'm not just going to show you a bunch of houses and what other people have done. I'm going to get into the price of things, the cost of things, the reality of things, understanding the culture, understanding what housing means in Ghana. So we are going to break that down today. So first, to get into understanding the landscape of real estate in Ghana is to understand the difference between local and luxury. Okay, and so local does not necessarily mean poor, it does not necessarily mean low quality, but it can. Okay, and luxury does not necessarily mean that it's a new building or that it's in a luxury location. Okay, but it can. And so I broke these down into categories because throughout this video and throughout certain photos and videos that you're going to see in the video, there are going to be questions that you might have like, okay, what's the difference between an apartment that looks like this versus an apartment that looks like this? And honestly, there's not a lot of, like, back in America, there is, language and terms that people would usually use to describe certain things, but it's very different in Ghana, depending on who your landlord is, if they're a foreigner, if they're a Ghanaian, depending on the management, all of those things can deter how your housing would be classified, right? So let's get into it. So first, local housing can be classified as housing for local citizens, specifically housing priced in Ghana cedi, in a less foreigner residential area, architecture and traditional or local types of amenities. Luxury can be classified as housing marketed for international residents with amenities as well as more modern architecture, and it can be classified in the locations, right? So for example, local housing can be houses or apartments. It can be older developments or newer developments. The road may not be cemented. Can also be an up-and-coming international residence area, meaning there are a lot of areas here in Accra that are still developing, right? For the most part, most of Accra is still developing. Even if there's already, buildings or things there, a lot of stuff is still in development, right? So you could be moving to a location that is typically local now, but it could be an up and coming space where maybe in about 2 to 5 years, there will be other developments that will come to that area, which will push more international residents to living there. Therefore, local and luxury can vary on currency rate for the rental price as well as architecture layout. So in Ghana, whether it is legal or not, there are a lot of luxury apartments that are charging in dollars, okay? So that is something that you do have to navigate, because usually the apartments or houses that are priced in dollars, it usually comes furnished and it usually comes with different amenities. So we're going to get into that, okay? So that's pretty much the difference between local and luxury. So here are some pictures of what would be considered local housing. And usually, like I said, local housing doesn't necessarily always mean whether the development is new or old. It can usually mean, it's in a traditional area, maybe an area that has been around for some time. And luxury can mean that it's in an up and coming location. There are a lot of areas like Airport Residential, East Legon Hills. There are a lot of new towns that are popping up that just 5 years ago or 7 years ago was just bush and there was nothing there. You know, I remember when a lot of these apartment buildings were not there. So that's what I mean by local areas. You can kind of define that by meaning it's mostly local people in that area or local people living in that building, versus if it's mostly international residents, expats, you know, foreigners, things like that. So let's talk about the difference between renting and owning. And this will be really, really quick because I want to talk about some of the deeper stuff. When it comes to renting and owning in Ghana, for people who are on vacation and you want to come to Ghana for longer than 2 weeks, you will have a other tier option. But let's go in order. So specifically for people who are vacationing and you only want to be in Ghana for a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, your rental options would vary pretty much from Airbnb, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, and things like that. Because those are just the top 3 websites that people frequently use here. Airbnb rentals vary in prices. It can be just as competitive and just as high as anywhere in the US. If you're going to Atlanta or New York, there are places that are charging $50 a night, and then there's places that are charging $150 a night. And again, when you're on Airbnb, when you're on Booking.com and TripAdvisor, you want to keep in mind what I mentioned about luxury and local, because there are a lot of local apartments on Airbnb. Right? There are a lot of local guest houses on Airbnb, on TripAdvisor, and Booking.com that won't have any amenities. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to what exactly it is that you want and what you're going for. Okay, so using the same information, like I said, from local versus luxury, hotels vary from traditional guest houses, beach resorts, penthouse apartment lofts, city hotels, hostels, and farm living options. The reason why I mentioned all of these is because a lot of times when people are coming to Ghana or anywhere in Africa, the most important thing is where you're going to stay. And where you're going to stay can vary. If you are somebody that likes hotels and you like the service, then I would advise you to find a hotel, find guest houses that you feel comfortable. And again, if you feel comfortable in something that's a little bit more local, or if you feel comfortable in something that is more luxury, I would always advise, especially for people who are coming for the first time, you want to lean a little bit more towards the luxury side, not just because of the amenities, but specifically because of security. And because if you are coming to Ghana with no help or no assistant or no tour guide, it will be quite difficult for you to understand where and how to do things, right? And you want to make sure that you're getting a good location. And we're going to talk about location in a second. So that is for people who are vacationing. If you are looking to come to Ghana for a very short time, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, hotels, Airbnbs, those are your options. Again, farm living options. If you find someone who lives on a farm and they have those things, there are hostels where you can stay in a bunk bed or stay in a room with multiple people. There's those options as well. And you can always choose in the search bar on TripAdvisor, Airbnb, all of that. It will all come up. So when we move into people who want to stay in Ghana for longer than a month. So if you want to come to Ghana and your visa stuff is all straightened out and you want to come for a month or 2. So even though you can still find a way to strike a deal with either your hotel or your Airbnb on a monthly price, Airbnb gives you the option of the monthly price, and it usually has some type of discount. Same with TripAdvisor and Booking. Most places will give some type of discount if you stay for a month. So that is always an option. Like I said, there. And then You also have to do your research, or obviously you can reach out to me and I can help you when it comes to coming to Ghana, finding a place and all of that stuff. But if you want to do it on your own and you want to use this video to navigate, I'm going to give you a little bit more information. So for those who are looking to rent an apartment or to stay for a longer amount of time, let's break down what that can look like. So first, I would advise anybody watching this video to watch my pros and cons of living in Ghana video after this, so that you can get a little bit more detail on just the lifestyle of living in Ghana, the everyday daily routine and things like that. So for people who are looking to stay in Ghana from a month to a year, let's break that up really quick. So like I said, if you're staying for a month, 2 month, 3 month, usually people stay in hotels or they stay in Airbnbs. And now you also, as travelers, you have the luxury of being able to travel from one hotel to another hotel. When I would stay in Ghana for a month or two at a time back in the day, I would stay at a Airbnb for a week or two, and then I would stay at another one for the other 2 weeks in another location. Just to kind of explore the city a little bit more, see what I do and don't like about certain areas, still try to, and I would always try to, find restaurants or hospitals or things in, places that you think you will frequent a lot, and try to find places that have an easy route to wherever, you might be, going to. Everyone that comes to Ghana isn't coming just to party. But if you are coming and you don't really have like an itinerary of what you want to do and you're kind of traveling around, I would always suggest getting in a Airbnb to have your stuff safe. And then when you want to go to different regions or you want to go somewhere for the weekend, just book another hotel so that you don't have to take all of your luggage all around the country. So that is a quick travel tip. So for people who want to come to Ghana for 6 months to a year, this part is for you. So one thing to know, and this is also information that's good for the people who want to stay for a month. Being in Ghana for 1 month, there are agents and housing developments that charge, for their monthly rate. And if you are getting something that is furnished, you just want a apartment to yourself, and maybe you don't go through Airbnb, or you do go through Airbnb, you can look to be spending about $500 to $1,200 for the month. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. Okay, I see a lot of places, the places that I'm posting here, the agents are posting how much these places are for the month if you are doing it on a month-to-month basis. It's obviously going to be a different price if you are buying it for the year, right? When you buy it for the year, they usually charge differently than what they would charge per month. So for something luxury like this, if you are wanting something that has a security gate and has a pool and has a front desk office and, maybe has a cafe inside of the courtyard, you're going to be looking at spending about $500 to $1,200. And that ranges from studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, usually are the apartment ranges before they start going into, the lofts and things like that. So if you're looking to stay for about, let's say 1 to 3 months, you can be, it would be reasonable and common for you to be spending about $500 to $1,200 a month. Okay. And so now this is different for people who want to come to Ghana and they want to move to Ghana. Now, if you want to move to Ghana and you want to move to Ghana for a year, here, this is where it gets kind of tricky, right? Because in Ghana, they make you pay a year in advance for your housing if you are buying an apartment or a house and you are buying it empty, unfurnished, and it's something that you have to be responsible for, they are expecting for a year's worth of rent in advance. There are a lot of rumors or a lot of speculation going around that that is supposed to be changed in the next couple of years. There are different petitions and things like that and conversations going around the country where they are trying to stop that. But as of right now, from what I understand, that is how it is, right? So that is something to keep in mind for people who want to come to Ghana and want to live here. It will be expected, especially as an expat, especially as a foreigner, it will be expected for you to pay a year's rent in advance, okay? That's just an idea. That's also why some people come and they stay for longer, and that can also be why some people come and stay for a shorter amount of time, because when you look at your flights and all of that, it is very expensive to come to Ghana. It is very expensive to stay in Ghana. It's expensive to have a hotel in Ghana. So I know a lot of people think that it's very cheap here, but it's not actually. It's not cheap here at all. So let's move on. So I want to talk about buying a home in Ghana. And I want to talk more so about moderate and luxury housing. I'm going to focus on houses that are costing between $70,000 to $120,000. There are obviously houses for cheaper than that, and there are houses for more than that. But I want to focus on this particular tax bracket because I think that this is one of the more popular economical choices that people are making when they come to Ghana. So we're going to talk a little bit about the houses that are around this range and other things that come with it. As you can see with these houses, these are more modern architecture, and you can also notice the courtyard as well as the surrounding buildings, whether there's development happening, you can see there's some construction. So just to kind of tie in what I said earlier in this video, that a lot of these new developments are also in areas that are not fully developed. So most of the time you will be around, other places that are still under construction. So that is always something to keep in mind when you're choosing a location. This is a structure that is currently selling, I believe, in the East Legon area. And so there are a variety of types of housing when it comes to buying. You can buy an apartment, you can buy a house, you can buy apartments that are attached to each other. You can buy houses that are 2-story buildings. It pretty much varies. So like I said, patios, the courtyard might be cemented, driveways, gated community. So here's a video of the apartment building that we just saw. And so this is the inside of it. So you can see that this is considered more so luxury by the modern interior design here. A lot of the stuff inside of this apartment building looks pretty new, looks really modern. It's in an area where you can see the other buildings around it are pretty developed. You can see that a lot of the accessories and appliances and things that are in this apartment are, foreign designed. So this is something that you can expect when looking for housing that you want to purchase. So like I said, you can buy an apartment. You can buy a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment building. You can buy a home. You can also, even if you, let's say you want to buy an apartment for the year or rent the apartment for a year, you can do that. But if you buy, then you own it. And then you pretty much figure out if you're using it for an investment or if this is where you want to live. There are developments that do allow people to buy the apartment and then the management company will help you manage it so that you can make your money back on the investment. So this is another structure. It's kind of a modern twist on a more traditional type of layout. This is a kind of common style that you can see in some of the more local areas. Like I said, it's a modern twist on something that would be considered like a traditional architecture that you see often. Again, a cemented or tiled driveway or compound. And here are some more buildings for you to look at. So like I said, the architecture can vary. It can go from really modern to semi-modern. They don't always get it right. The styles are very, very different. The color choices can be really different, like I said. But once you buy something, you can change whatever it is that you want to change on it. So let's talk about that. So when you buy a house, these are just some of the things that you should expect. So when you are going around looking at different real estate options with an agent, there are different things that you want to look out for so that you understand what exactly you're paying for. Do you have security? What is the security procedure? Do you have keys? Do you have to be notified by camera? And then also take note of the car space if you are driving, and then also ask questions about the semi or fully furnished accessories or furniture or appliances that are in the house. And then a couple other things to expect when you are buying a home or an apartment, or if you are renting a home or an apartment for a year or more. These are just some things to keep in mind. Not all places come with air conditioning, and usually in the luxury spaces and usually the places that charge in USD, they usually have air conditioning. So you want to make sure that you want to ask about the lighting fixtures. Make sure that you know what kind of light bulbs they are. You also want to assess the neighborhood and look at the neighborhood and make sure that you feel comfortable there. When you buy a house that has a cement courtyard, it's pretty much up to you or the development company to change it if you want to have a garden and you want more land space. So let's talk a little bit about some costs that might be added, or it can be included. Some luxury apartments in Accra, especially, if you are renting an apartment for a short amount of time, usually things like electricity and your water and sometimes your Wi-Fi could be included. But when you are buying a house or renting an apartment for a year, these are some things that you will have to be responsible for. Now, some houses might come with these things. It might come with a solar panel, but these are some numbers just so that you can get an idea if you see something that does or does not include electricity options. Here's a general idea of costs. So water is another thing that may or may not be included. If you are renting a luxury apartment, usually water is included. If you're renting an unfurnished apartment for the year, usually water is your responsibility. And if you are buying land or if you are buying a home, usually water is your responsibility as well. So these are some costs, like I said, so that you can kind of get an assessment. And always remember, the prices that I'm giving you is typically for like one person. So if you have a family, it will be more. So this is to give you a depiction of what a unpaved road could look like in an area that is developing. This is an area where houses are being sold for $90,000, $100,000. But the road is still not paved and there are a lot of buildings still being developed. So for the people who are looking to buy unfurnished apartments or houses or renting unfurnished apartments and housing for a year, unfurnished means unfurnished. No AC, no refrigerator, no ceiling fan. It could mean especially no water heater. So all of your kitchen appliances and things like that, all of your furniture, You will be providing for yourself, and when you leave, you are expected to take everything back. So you want to keep that in mind. So that's really the deciding factor when you want to stay for some time and you want to stay for a year and you want to get an idea of how much things cost. You want to ask those questions, which appliances are included, so that you can get an idea of what you will need to be spending. I want to talk about the locations. I think that this is a really, really important thing to talk about, because when people talk about Ghana, they're most of the time talking about Accra. Accra is the capital city, and it's where most things are, right? But there's a lot to understand about Ghana. Ghana is 16 regions, right? But I would say that there's about 5 regions that are the most popular. So Accra is its own region: Greater Accra region, Central region, Western region, Volta region, Ashanti region, Northern region, and Eastern region. So it's more than 5. They all have their own special qualities about each other. So I do want to spend some time talking about the locations, more so the regions first, and then I'll try to break down the different cities and towns and villages within these different regions, because I've been looking on YouTube and watching all of these different diasporans who come to Ghana or come to Africa to live. And then when they do their interviews and they have now decided to leave, a lot of the time people say, oh, they were living in the wrong area. Oh, they didn't do their research. They didn't do it the right way. They should have known more information about where they were moving. People kind of give the diaspora like they don't really give the diaspora grace when it comes to learning these different cultures and these different systems. So it's almost impossible for people to really understand what's going on here until they get here and live it for themselves. So, and those things are really important when we talk about choosing locations, because every location in every region in Ghana, they have a different background. They have a different tribe and different kingdom that is, the main staple of who controls the area. And so that is something that a lot of Black Americans and a lot of Black people across the diaspora do not know. So let's get into choosing a location. So let's break this down as quick as possible. Accra is obviously known for its metropolitan developing nature, and it's where you will find the most development, quote unquote, safety, and accessibility. Accra is where all of the museums, majority of the museums are. It's where you see the most content coming out on Instagram and TikTok, the restaurants and things like that. Accra is also a coastal region, so it is a area that has access to the beach. That is the landscape of that area. It's the beach, and then as you go north, you go more up the hill towards the mountains, which is Eastern region. So let's actually just get into Eastern region. Is where Abri Botanical Gardens are. It's also another popular place. It's where there are about 2 to 3 waterfalls in that area, and it's also home to the nature, like that's where people consider the most nature focused place. You can do quad biking. There's a lot of big views, and it's considered, the mountainous area of Ghana. It's right above the Accra region. So to get to Abri from the beach of Accra would pretty much be about 90 minutes. And with traffic, could take 5 hours. So it really just depends. Central region, which is going towards Cote d'Ivoire, is the home to the Cape Coast and Elmina slave dungeons. So for people who have seen the videos on the slave dungeons and the experience that people have, that is inside of the central region. But Cape Coast is the name of a town, and Elmina is the name of the other town. And then there's smaller towns in between them, but they are most known for the huge white slave dungeons that are there that are used as tourist attractions. And there is a diaspora community out there, mostly senior citizens, but there are some people there doing some work and things like that have hotels and that have restaurants and different organizations as well. Western region is west of central region, so it's the region that separates Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, and that is an area that is mostly known for its beaches as well. Busua is an area that is there, and they have festivals throughout the year as well. That's when a lot of people go, about 2 to 3 times a year. People go down to that area for surfing, for beach towns. There's different beach resorts down there. And so just to give some context, so Central Region is 3 hours from Accra, okay? Central Region is 3 hours from Accra. Western Region is about 30 minutes to an hour away from Cape Coast, which is pretty much when you enter Central Region. Well, that's not true. When you enter the coast of Central Region, that's where you enter Cape Coast. So if you're going from Cape Coast to, let's say, Takoradi, which is in Western Region, that can take about 30 minutes to an hour, which is just down a beach road pretty much. So let's move right along. So Volta region is the next region we will discuss, and it's known for its waterfall, Willie, which you can also see from Togo. Volta is also home of the Ewe people. Again, remember I said that the different regions, they're also represented by different tribes and kingdoms as well. So the Ewe people are a kingdom out in Volta region that's also shared with Benin as well as Togo. Ewe people are a very, very large population of people that speak Ewe, so they don't speak Tree. And so within Volta region as well is another area called Adafo, which is near the coast, and there are beach resorts there as well. There are diasporans who have invested in some land and property over in that area as well. The Ashanti region is where the Manshia Palace is in Kumasi. So if you have seen videos of kente cloth and the chiefs wearing the gold and the kente cloth, and if you see them in the parades with the red umbrella, even though they technically do that all around the country, but where people love to see that happen, specifically tourists and diasporans, is in Kumasi. That is the home of the Ashanti people. And so the Ashanti region, with Kumasi being the main city there are a lot of hotels, lots of restaurants, very similar to Accra. Not as developed, but pretty much as developed, to be honest. Everywhere pretty much just has road issues. Everywhere has the same issues. There's lights out, there's water issues. There's absolutely no area in Ghana that is like perfect. Other than this place that I just found near airport. It's a brand new development, but I'm going to talk about that another day because I'm going to do a video about that area because it literally just popped up out of nowhere. Okay, so let's move along. So, and then there's Northern region, which is the home of shea butter. So people who are in the shea butter business and people who want to work in that world, that is a very good area to live in. Now, the northern region is all the way at the top of Ghana, okay? If you were to drive there, it would take you 16 hours. Okay, so you have to fly there and probably get there in about an hour or two. Northern region is probably the least developed area, but there are still houses, there are still apartments. But northern region is also one of the fairly most indigenous and traditional areas. It is mostly populated with Hausa people. There's a large Muslim community there, and there's still a lot of villages in the area that still live in the mud huts. So that's something that you would see more of as well. And then there's a lot of, there's also a tourist community there as well, because there is the Red Clay Studio by Ibrahim Mahama. And there are other attractions like Larabanga and Mole National Park that have the animals and things like that. So that is location. So really quick before we get into the real conversation about what they don't tell you and things like that, I do want to talk about the locations in closing. Choosing a location is really, really tricky, okay? The safest option when choosing a location is to be as close to Accra Central as possible. I'm just going to be honest about that. If you are a family, if you are a single people, man or woman, if you are going to come to Ghana and it's your first time, I personally would advise people to live as close to Accra as possible. And then within that year that you're here, or within that time that you're here, travel around the country as much as possible. Stay in different areas so that you can see what it's like living further from where you live. I know a lot of people who came to Ghana and the first place that they lived in was Cape Coast. And Cape Coast has a completely different vibe. It's very, very slow. It's very, very small. It's not a lot to do. It's very much a retirement community, okay, amongst the diaspora as well as just local life there. It's a very small type of area. So it's a good place for people who are students. If you are a grad student or you're a student, if you're writing a book and things like that, and you need to be in an area that, you know, is not super like crazy, Cape Coast is a good vibe and a place that you could stay and have a good time. You know, there's not a lot of supermarkets. There's literally one. And it's not like I said, it's not a luxury place. You know, no matter how nice the house is, no matter how nice the apartment is, it's not a luxury place. There's not really any luxury restaurants other than Ridge Royal Hotel. And that's probably like the most luxurious that you're going to get. And then the rest are going to be beach resorts mostly. So if like I said, if you're a student, if you're older, if you're not trying to be around the kids and doing all the fun stuff, Cape Coast is a good area. But if you are young and you are new to Ghana, I would advise you to live in Accra and to live as close to the areas like Osu, East Legon, Cantonment, Laboni. I would advise even Kokolimle, East Airport, Airport Residential. Those areas I would more so recommend if you're coming to Ghana for the first time, whether by yourself or a group or whatever. So let's get into the main part of this video. Now that I have broke down what housing look like, cost, and things like that, let's talk about what they don't tell you, okay? Number one, Ghana still has electricity issues. I know that this is something that people do not want to admit, but it is real. At any moment right now, my electricity can go off, even though it has nothing to do with my prepaid bill, okay? Why? Well, there are a lot of political issues. There is a lot of borrowing from other countries. There is a lot of owing money to other countries and companies and things like that that affect the electricity and the power systems here in Ghana. This is still Africa, so when you start doing your research and you start asking questions like who owns Ghana's electricity and power, you'll understand a little bit more. So I know for people like me who grew up in America, I never lived in that world. I never lived in a world where your light just goes out for 6 hours because the government owes money. I don't know what that is, right? In Ghana, they call that doomsor. Doomsor, whatever, DUMSOR. And it's kind of similar to like Galamsey, so they call it doomsor, and it's really just basically like when the government owes money to whatever. And there's also I also saw in my research too that it's not just about owing money. It can also mean that there's now electricity or power that's being given to another area or another country, so they have to slow some down over here. It's so confusing to even describe because I've never experienced it until living here. You know what I mean? So that is something that you have to understand. Whether you live in a luxury apartment, whether you live in a local apartment, whether you bought your house, you rented your apartment, you can end up having that issue. Whether you live deep in Accra, in the most popular area, that issue can happen. So this is for specifically people who are coming to Ghana and you want to live here and you want to work remote and you're still working, right? You will most likely have to invest in a solar panel or a generator. And those could range from $300 to $15,000, right? Solar panels can be really expensive depending on the size, depending on how many watts you want it to be able to provide. If you are moving into an unfurnished apartment, if you're moving into an unfurnished apartment, this can be something else that you add onto your bill. Keep in mind, if you are moving to Ghana and you want to come for a year, you want to come for 6 months or a year, you can find a really nice apartment for about $200 a month, and you can find a really nice that is unfurnished, and then you can find a really nice apartment that is all furnished for $500 to $1,000 a month. So just keep in mind what those costs look like because it is not cheap. So like I said, solar panels and generators are not cheap, and that is something that you will have to invest in if you are coming to live and you will be working, especially if you're going to be remote working or content creation or anything like that, okay? Number 2, make sure that when you come and you are doing your housing and you're going around looking at different places, make sure you have another expat with you or another Ghanaian with you. Why? Because Nigerians and Liberians have a hard time getting housing in Ghana. Most of the time when I go to meet with an agent, the first thing they ask me is, are you a Nigerian? Most Ghanaians think that I am Nigerian. And unfortunately, it does not work to my benefit. As a diasporan and as a Black American, that is something that is very unsettling and is very uncomfortable. Being asked, what is your tribe, before being able to walk inside of an apartment to look at it it's very interesting, especially knowing the history of Black Americans, where a lot of us do not know that information. But for the most part, the landlords and the agents that I spoke to, they were just mostly concerned with me not being Nigerian. So I don't know what that's like for Nigerian diasporans, but I do know that for a lot of Nigerians, they do have that issue with Ghana. So that is something to keep in mind. There is still discrimination that happens here, as much as people say that there isn't. Number 3, Bolt and Uber doesn't work everywhere in Ghana. Okay, if you do not have a car, Bolt in Ghana, Bolt is a rideshare app just like Uber. There's also Yango, I believe, and there's maybe another one. It does not work everywhere. in Ghana. It doesn't work everywhere in Accra. There are locations in Accra where some drivers do not want to go to because maybe it's not super busy in that area. So that is something that you want to pay attention to when you choose your location, and also understand that things change within about 6 months to a year's time. Here, it takes things a lot longer to change. So there are areas right now that Bolt and Uber is not stationed in. Mainly, I would say Cape Coast, Central Region, Western Region, Bolt and Uber is not there yet. So if you don't have a car, what does that mean? So the modes of transportation here in Ghana is either taxi, personal drivers, rental cars, and then the local trotro, which is a beat down van where 16 people get into a van, no AC, and go around the city, right? It can be really convenient, but for the most part, I would not advise people who are coming to Ghana for the first time or people who are coming to Ghana by themselves to take it, because it's no way for you to understand how to get from point A to point B, because there is no map system, there is no app system, there is no none of that. I've been here back and forth for a long time, so I know how to get to anywhere in this country on my own without Bolt and Uber. But that's not the same for people. You know, if you're a diasporan, there's literally no way for you to know how to use the Trotro, because it's not, like I said, it's not something you could just look up online. It's not there. Now, when you get here and you ask questions and things like that, yeah, sure. But I know for me, and I know for other people who grew up with subways and trains and this and that and this and that, I very well have traveled to countries and learned the train system when I got there, or asked a friend, what do I do? Ghana's not that type of place. I would not advise that. When you get here, I would advise either renting a car, getting a personal driver, or using Uber and Bolt. Luckily, when you come in from the airport, you can call an Uber and Bolt and they will pick you up and y'all will go. I personally would not advise getting a taxi from the airport. I have never had anybody pick me up from the airport. When I come into the country, I order a Bolt or an Uber and they pick me up. We pay the little ticket to get out of the airport and then we go. Why do I do that? Because the prices are already stationary. When you use the taxis, they looking at you, what you got on, your hair texture, your skin complexion, your accent. They looking at your jewelry you got on, and they will come up with the craziest prices just based off of how they feel about what you got on. And getting off of the flight and dealing with all of that it can ruin your entire day. Okay, so I would not advise dealing with the taxis. I would just get a rental car service, get a driver, or order a Bolt or an Uber. And for the Uber, you can pay with a card, you can pay with cash, whatever. Number 4, apartment managers are not reliable. Okay, so whether you rent an apartment or a house, or you own an apartment or a house, let me tell you something. When you rent an apartment in Ghana and you rent it unfurnished, you are responsible for everything. You're responsible for everything. I know that that's not how it is in the US. When you rent an apartment, the whole point of you renting it is because it's everybody else's responsibility. That's not how it is here. In Ghana, when you rent an unfurnished apartment, you have to pay to change your door locks, to pay for your new keys. You have to pay for all of your locks. You have to pay for all of your light bulbs. You have to pay for every door handle and every door that you have in your place. You have to replace those on your own. Anything that you don't like about your house, whether you want them to repaint it because it's dirty or whatever, those things are going to be on you. Now, there will be apartment managers who will be nice enough to help and things like that. But for the most part, you are going to be responsible for a lot of things, okay? You want to make sure that you ask certain questions about the trash and the electricity and things like that. You're responsible for electricity. You're responsible for water. You're responsible for all of those things. So that is something that I know a lot of people don't like renting in Ghana. That's why they will just bite the bullet and pay $500 to $1,200 a month, because all of those things will sometimes still not come included, but for the most part, they don't have to worry so much about all of these different things, okay? Number 5, buying gas. Let me talk to you guys about buying gas. Maybe this is just an American thing, but I had never saw a gas tank before until I came here. So when it comes to gas, gas is not connected like to your building underground or whatever. Gas is still in a gas tank. So when you rent an apartment, or whether you rent an apartment, buy an apartment, rent a house, buy a house, it's your responsibility to buy a gas tank, fill up that gas tank, and bring that gas tank back to your house in order to use it for your kitchen, if you decide to use gas stove and a gas oven. The other option is to just use an electric stove and an electric oven, but some people don't like hot plates, and some people don't like those type of appliances. So if you want that luxury type of appliance and you have to buy that yourself, always keep that in mind, that you have to buy a gas tank, and you want to make sure that you're close enough somewhere where you can get gas if that is the lifestyle you are going to choose, okay? Number 6, pets. Pets are here. You can get pets here. You can bring pets here. Dogs are becoming a very popular pet now here in Ghana. So, there's dogs everywhere. There's foreign dogs, there's local dogs, and more importantly, there are pet hospitals and animal hospitals, and there are veterinarians, and there are pet stores as well in very metropolitan areas, mainly Accra. I know that there are animal hospitals in Cape Coast as well, and I'm pretty sure in Kumasi, but I know in Accra there are a few of them to choose from. But I've been to at least a couple of pet stores in Cape Coast, and an animal hospital in Cape Coast, so I know that they are there. Okay. Number 7, house theft is common in Ghana. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but house theft is very popular, common, happens all the time. Okay. It is more common to happen in the house, in the apartments, rather than in hotels and guest houses, but it is a very big thing. When you are traveling to Ghana and you are staying in an Airbnb, or you're staying in a house or an apartment, things like that, theft is a very big thing, okay? This is going to scare a lot of people, but because nobody told me until it happened to me, I'm going to talk about it, because then when I talked about it, everybody said, oh yeah, that happens. And I don't like that about being here. I noticed that there's a lot of like little secrecies that people don't want to admit because they think it's going to turn people off of Ghana, but it's unfair to tell a fantastical version of anywhere and not tell the truth, okay? So there are house thieves who use very, very long poles with duct tape on the end to basically put through your window to steal your electronics, right? Luckily, when it happened to me, nothing got stolen. I woke up while they were doing it. And so, yeah. But I've also heard stories all over Ghana. Mainly, I've heard these stories in Accra as well as in Cape Coast, where now there are house thieves who spray a sleeping smoke into your house if your window is open, or if you have the screen open, because a lot of the screen windows don't lock, right? So if you sleep with your screen open, they can open that window and spray the sleeping agent in that will knock you out sleep while they are stealing your things, okay? This happens a lot to people who live on the ground floor as well. People who are on the first floor, this happens to more often than people who are in higher elevation. So that's something to be careful about when you're coming to Ghana and you're staying in these different places, because a lot of people get their stuff stolen in December. I'm going to make that very clear. A lot of people don't talk about it, again, because everybody wants to like, oh, Ghana is so perfect. But A lot of people get robbed during December. A lot of people go home without their phones, without their purses. It's every night that you go out, you're gonna hear a story about somebody who got robbed. It doesn't fail. Okay, so the more that we talk about it, the more that we are able to stay aware. Here's another travel tip about Ghana. When I'm in the taxis and Ubers, a lot of times when my window is down and I'm on my phone, the driver will say, "Get off of your phone." They will grab your phone and run. Okay? And it happens to hundreds of you every December, every time. And it's all the time that I'm in the car in specific areas. And let me be clear, where it's the most dangerous for people to grab your phone and run is actually on the main roads. It's not even when you're in the side streets. When you're on the main roads in Accra, when you're in Osu, when you're near Accra Mall, when you're near Shiashi, when you are on that main road, the Abri road that goes from Accra straight to Abri, when you are on that road, that is when the drivers usually will say, "Oh, let me roll your window and turn on the AC or something," or they'll be like, "Oh, please, if you be on your phone, I'll roll the window," because they know that there are people that will run up, grab your phone, and run, and you can't find them in broad daylight. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. Number 8, water is a luxury in Ghana. Yes, water is a luxury here. You can't drink from the tap. You can't drink from the tap water, okay? And it is recommended to cook with bottled water as well. Use filters. If you have the state-of-the-art water filter, I would advise you to bring it with you from out of state, because it's no shade, no tea, but whatever filters are here, they came from out the country anyway. So if you are coming into Ghana, one of the things I would get when I go back home is a water filter. Okay, whether you get a water filter that connects to the sink, or you get a water filter that you pour into and it does its thing, but definitely get a water filter. Let's talk about how water is distributed here in Ghana. Again, I know for the rest of us, I know in America, when you pay your bill, water shows up. That's not how it is here, okay? So on the top of my roof is a water tank. And all of my other neighbors here, on the top of their roof, they have 1 or 2 water tanks. Some of them have 2 tanks up, 1 tank on the bottom. And so we have people who come with a big truck full of water, who come and fill up our water tanks when we call them that it's empty. That is how we get water. That is how mostly everybody gets water, okay? Now, for people who have boreholes, if you bought land and it has a borehole, or if you bought a house and it already had a borehole in it, then they can connect their water in different ways so that it flows through their house. But if you don't have a borehole, then water will be brought to you. That is how you do it. So when you need water, you call, the people come, and that's how you get water. Same thing with electricity. It's a prepaid card. You go pay for it on the card, you put it on your house meter, and then your electricity comes. Gas, you gotta go get the gas yourself, get your own gas tank, bring it back, hook it back up to your house or to your appliances. You have to do all of those things on your own, okay? Number 9, if you move into a local unfurnished place, anything you purchase for the place you take when you leave, unless the landlord or apartment manager wants to pay you for it. So this is something to be very aware of. If you are coming to Ghana and you want to buy an apartment for a year and you need to add certain things to it, you are entitled to take those things that you brought in. A lot of apartments do not come with ceiling fans. They don't come with air conditioners. They don't come with appliances. You have to bring every single thing when you move into an apartment here, okay? So If you bring in a ceiling fan, you bring in an AC unit, you bring in all those things, you take it when you leave. And this is also this is number 8.5, even though I'm on number 9. 8.5 is you have to install your own water heater. Your shower will be connected and things like that, but heating your water is not automatic. It's not like left or right knob. You have to actually have a water heater installed to your wall, on the outside of your wall. You have to actually have a plumber and an electrician come in to actually connect that to your shower, and it's a switch that you have to press. You have to wait some 10 minutes for it to come on, and then you can have your hot water. That is how you got to do it, okay? Number 10. And this is going to be a big one. The police are not reliable, okay? The police are not reliable. This is a very, very big reality, because for the most part, when diasporans, specifically Black Americans, leave America to come to Ghana or come to Africa, one of the big reasons that they leave is because of the police brutality, the police presence and things like that back in places like the UK and America and Canada, right? Well, when you come out here, it's a whole nother side of the spectrum, okay? It's a whole nother side of the spectrum where the police there in America don't help you because they're racist, and the police here will not help you because they just won't help you. No police officer is going to help you unless you pay money to them for each step of the investigation. You have to pay them to investigate. You have to pay them to care to write it down. You have to pay them to go check something. You have to pay them for each part of anything that you want them to investigate, whatever the case may be. If someone stole your car, if someone stole something from out of your house and you decide to go to the police, they might even charge you for them to make a police report. And I'm not being funny. Everything that I am talking about in this video, I've either experienced myself in the last 2 years, or I have experienced it over the course of 11 years that I have been coming and visiting Ghana. So I'm not just speaking about things that are rumors. I'm not speaking about anomalies. I'm not speaking about the things that only the elite class of the diasporans experience. I'm talking about real things when we are all sitting around, hanging out, what we talk about. And these are the things that are really happening. So that is something that you really want to keep in mind. You always want to have extra emergency stashes of savings of money, because when it comes to police, you will have to pay a lot for whatever it is. This is a bonus number 11. Healthcare in Ghana. Okay? Now, we have the luxury of being able to go to the pharmacy and being able to go get pharmaceuticals without a doctor's note. There's that luxury. But then there is the issue of hospital care. You can just pretty much research hospitals in Ghana to see the state that they are in. Now, there are foreign institutions, there are foreign hospitals, there are German-owned hospitals, there are Indian-owned hospitals. There are hospitals here that can help you. There are women's clinics and things like that. But if you are somebody, and this is something that is consistent throughout any YouTuber, any person that helps you when they talk about healthcare in Ghana, we all agree on this. If you have dire health issues, if you have a specific illness and it's only 10 people in the world who can help you, respectfully, you probably should just visit Ghana. But I don't think living in Ghana is good, because there's not a lot of specialists that specialize in very, very specific things here yet. That's going to take a lot of time. And so it's very common for a lot of people here who have the money, who have those type of special conditions, they just fly to Europe or they fly back to America for their doctor's appointments, which again is a very elite class of people who can spend $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 to go back to America or the UK and then go, and go to the doctor. So that is not necessarily something that everybody can do. So now that we have talked about that, okay, I just want to give a quick recap. I want to show you guys images of homes in Ghana, land opportunities, and just what the landscape looks like. These are some images of homes that range from $70,000 to $150,000. So as you can see from these pictures, there's really cool architecture, there's color, there's cement, driveways, there's gated communities and things like that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you can find something that you like, but there will be little things here and there that you may not. Here is another, this might be number 12, actually, on the things that they don't tell you. This is number 12. A lot of the modern homes that are being built today in Ghana do not have backyards or front yards or trees or bushes. So as you can see in these photos that I'm showing you, you don't see a front yard, you don't see any greenery, and you just see a lot of cement. So that is one of the reasons why a lot of people who are coming to Ghana and they want to live here and they want to buy a home, that's why a lot of people are resorting to buying land and building a home themselves, because they're starting to see that there's a modernization and a westernization that's happening within the real estate architecture here in Ghana, and it defeats the purpose why so many of us wanted to come here. And this is something to understand. The Black American and Black diaspora population of people that are coming to Ghana, even if you combine all of us together, we do not amount to how many Europeans and Indians and Lebanese and Arabian people who are coming to Ghana every single year. Their numbers exceed us, right? And so I think for the Black diaspora, we want front yards, we want mango trees, we want palm trees, we want those things. So a lot of people have started realizing that a lot of the new real estate is not promoting that. There is a battle between Western building and local traditional indigenous building. And even though this is Ghana, this is an African country, unfortunately, there is a battle with westernization in pretty much every sector of the country. So that is something to also keep in mind. So just have an idea of what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you want to experience. I know a lot of people who come to Ghana and they only want to experience luxury. They don't want trees and they don't want those things. So some people, they want to live in the penthouse apartment. They want to live in the luxury apartment. They don't want to be with the people, and that's okay. There are places like that. But then for those of you who want to be amongst the people and you want to be able to, have more of a different lifestyle and you came to live a different lifestyle, then there's also the opportunity for that. So that is the end of this video. And if you have any questions, if you are looking for someone to connect with here in Ghana, if you are looking to visit, if you're looking to move, whatever that looks like, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out to me at my email. Go to my website, nakedgoldonline.com, and on the travel tab, I have information on how you can contact me. So if you have any questions and you want to do a consultation, please feel free to reach out to me. My consultations are anywhere between $5 to $20, depending on the time that you want to talk. So definitely reach out. Don't be afraid. Like I said, visit my website, nakedgoldonline.com, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. It's Kiki.